Welcome to Kick It Up a Notch, hosted by Megan and Jenny. We're here to bring you lively conversations, inspiring stories, and a little bit of everything in between. Whether it's life, business, or just a good laugh, we're turning up the energy and diving into what makes life extraordinary. Let's kick it up a notch. Welcome to another episode of Kick It Up a Notch. I'm Megan Thomas, and I'm here with my amazing co-host, Jennifer McBride. We are realtors, entrepreneurs, and all-around pretty fun gals. We're so glad to have you back for another episode. Make sure you check out our last episodes and follow, like, and subscribe.
We are so glad to have you back. We're here to talk with some incredible people who are making a real difference in our community here in Southern Indiana. Whether it's through their businesses, nonprofits, innovative ideas, or inspiring stories, these individuals are shaping the future in ways that often go unnoticed. We wanted to create a platform to share their stories and celebrate their impact. And I'm going to give a little shout out to my niece today, Taylor. She's 13 years old, and she is a really cool gal as well. And today we have another Taylor on our podcast. We're kicking it up a notch with Taylor Sparks. She is joining us today to talk about her journey with infertility and adoption, something so many families are facing. She is fulfilling her lifelong dream of being a stay-at-home mom so she doesn't have to miss a single moment of everything she has ever wanted. Hobbies are reading and going to the beach, teaching her daughter new things daily.
That's so amazing. I am so excited to have this conversation. Taylor gets to spend her days being a great dog mom, as well as watching her sweet baby girl, Stevie, who I believe just turned 1, correct?
Yes.
Taylor has also taken on one of the most challenging tasks and has entered into her sourdough era as well. So you are not scared to back down from a challenge, and we will be praying for you as you go through that sourdough journey. I have wanted to have this conversation with Taylor since we started the podcast and said we were going to be talking with people who have amazing stories. So Taylor, getting started today, let's start from the beginning. You are here to talk about your infertility and adoption journey. You've been very open about that on social media. So how did you and your husband meet, and how long have you guys been together?
So we actually met at my sister's brother's baseball and like middle school. We've been together since 2005. So we are high school sweethearts. It's been a long time.
I love that so much. Chris went to Wrights. That's how I know kind of you, because you were around that. I don't want to say around the whole time, but have known you through Chris kind of from a distance. So, did you two always know you wanted to be parents? Always knew you wanted to have kids? Did that come later in your relationship? Because you seem like you were born to be a mom.
I felt like from the very beginning, obviously we were very young. We weren't like trying by any means in high school. But we definitely talked about it right out of high school. We got married very fast after high school. I was 21 and he was 20. So,
oh, wow.
You know, I think, let's see. Yes, that's right.
Okay.
We were younger when we got married, and we knew right away that we wanted kids. And it just didn't happen that way for us.
Okay.
What was the process like when you learned that there was reproductive challenges? Like, when did you, it didn't happen and you started thinking, maybe there's an issue, like what did that look like, and what steps did you take to figure that out?
So whenever right after we got married, I had started talking to my doctor about wanting to have a child. She had told me to try for 6 months and then if nothing happened, come back and let's revisit. Um, Previously, before that, there was not any like birth control. There was, there was preventatives, but not like super preventative. So I was already thinking about something could be an issue. I've had cysts probably all of my life, maybe not when I was younger, but I always had issues on my ovaries. It's actually crazy because my mom has the same, she had cysts on her ovaries. Um, so it's really crazy that it like goes back. So after 6 months, I went back to my doctor. We talked to her, and I actually started seeing Dr. Griffin at Boston IVF. From there, we started doing testing right away. And everything that was coming back, it was like that was fine. There was a compatibility test that we could have taken to see if like you're compatible with your partner. That came back fine. So then I did a HSG test where they like put fluids like a dye into your tubes to see if they're blocked or anything. One of my tubes are blocked on one side, which is so crazy because my mom, it's the exact same as my mom.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yep. But then whenever she had her last child, she had her tube completely taken out. So she had one tube, the whole thing. But from there, though, we were being told that, you could still conceive. It could come from the other side. You could still ovulate out of one side. It was a whole thing. We did get pregnant multiple times, obviously ending in miscarriage. And from there, we just kept trying.
Mm-hmm.
How far what was the farthest you got with your pregnancies?
Never passed the first trimester.
Did the doctors, are they able to find out why? Were they just putting it back to the cyst and block tube and just keep
So
trying?
they can test. They will test. We tested a couple of times and it never came back like an issue as like it's on me or on Chris, or it was just, just didn't happen. It wasn't our time.
Wasn't the plan.
How did you handle that emotionally? Wanting to be a parent, wanting to be a mom,
Right.
how did you handle that?
So I always knew that I wanted to be a mom. I'm very involved in all of my nieces and nephews, friends' kids. Very, very, was very, very ready, young, and dealing with infertility is definitely a very, very hard thing to go through if you don't know someone else that's going through it, or if you don't know somebody else that has been through it. It's like watching your friends and your sisters and your cousins, everyone around you living out a dream that you wanted to live, and not at the moment that you wanted to live it, is probably one of the hardest things that I have ever had to go through. And like me being a woman and my body not being able to do something that I was made to do,
Right.
or me being able to provide my husband with a child that, he wants a family too, and I can't give that to him. So it's always been very, very hard. And I was really quiet about it for a long time, until I was just like, you know what? There's got to be somebody else out there with the same story with me, or same story just like me, or somebody going through the same situation. And there's so many people that are going through the same situation. So we started doing, all kinds of stuff, walks, all the things.
Like supporting, like in advocacy to get people in the community. That's
talking
amazing.
about it. And I feel like the more that I talked about it, not the easier it was for me, but it just made a huge difference.
You're not alone.
You're right.
Because you have your husband you can rely, you can talk with your husband, you can talk with your friends, your sisters who have the kids. no one will know what that is like. Even if they've been through it too, it's a different situation for everyone. So to feel alone and then to be able to reach out and find a community so other people who are feeling alone maybe don't feel alone, I think is what is so powerful with the story. It's why main reason why we wanted to do this podcast. We don't know if Jenny and I and a podcast is a way to get it out, but if one person hears something that they are struggling with and it changes a little bit of their struggle, that is what I think I've always been so drawn to your story, is that you did that, and that could have changed so many people's perspective that you know about and don't know about. So for
I think
speaking
that
up,
it's like going into it, a way that I've always kind of described it, and I heard this a long time ago when I was first going through it. Are you guys like big thrill, like roller coaster people?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Oh,
so
yeah.
like imagine you're in a line for a brand new roller coaster that everyone has been talking about for a long time, and you're in the line and you're watching all your friends get on this ride first before you, and you're seeing them on these, on this great, they're going through the circles, the hula, all the things for the roller coaster, and then it's your turn and you get on the roller coaster and they're like, sorry, it's broken.
Yeah.
It's like it just leads you up to everything you've ever wanted, and then it's just like taken.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a lonely ride. But when you find your people, it's just great.
oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. Was it local? Is it all online groups?
There's been a lot of friends that have experienced even secondhand for infertility. Like they've gotten pregnant the first time, but not the second time. They've had to do IVF the second time. It's so crazy the amount of people that I know now, even just within the last 15 years. It's just crazy.
Wow. That's impressive. So you mentioned IVF. Is that a journey you guys tried? Were there alternatives?
It is not. We didn't do IVF. That was our next step. And then Chris moved for work for Florida, and we just kind of put a pause on all of that. And then we moved, and we got pregnant naturally. After we were just like moved, our minds weren't thinking about it, with no help. And that was the first time in a couple of years, because whenever we started doing treatments, we did the Clomid, we did the letrozole. I think that's, don't mark me on the words on the medicines, but IUI, all of that. We tried all of that, and we got pregnant a couple times on Clomid, but from there, it just didn't.
So you go through miscarriages. You know what that process is like, and you get pregnant again. Are you excited? Are you scared? Are you mad because you don't want to be excited? What is that like?
It is definitely such a weird feeling, because like when you are in the process of trying to have a baby, it's not like, okay, let's take a test and see if we're going to have a baby or not. You're testing daily. You're testing ovulation. You're testing, it's a job almost.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like for the most time. I mean, we were years and years of doing ovulation tests, checking your body temperatures. So it was more of a job, and you get in a cycle of disappointment, and it just is very hard at first, especially a new marriage, to go through something like that. Like, you're supposed to have like, a great time in your marriage. So to go through that immediately in the beginning of our marriage, it was definitely hard. I think that if we weren't like high school sweethearts and we went right into that, it would have been very hard. But, Chris is like my rock and everything. So I couldn't imagine even having to do it without him.
So, you mentioned that you didn't do IVF.
Mm-hmm.
What was the reason? Was it the cost, or what was the reasoning behind that?
For me, it was I had went through multiple miscarriages, and the cost of it um made me freak out at first. And I was like, "There's no way I can guarantee it doesn't guarantee me to
Mm-hmm.
bring a baby home. It doesn't guarantee it's gonna work. It's a lot of money, and to think about it as like that, it's even crazy to think about. Like I'm having to pay thousands of dollars just to have a child. It's crazy to think about.
Yeah. Well, here's, I guess, where, just my non-knowledge on this
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Your issue was not necessarily getting pregnant for the most part. You got
It was
pregnant.
staying.
It was
Yeah.
staying pregnant. So
Yeah.
is the IVF, is that more of not being able to ovulate or, to get pregnant, or is that,
So there's
I guess I'm
multiple
not really,
things. So like I could do IVF and they could like guarantee that they put the baby inside of me,
right.
basically. Um, but there was no it could work, it could stick. You still have that wait period, even though they're inserting
Mm-hmm.
a baby inside of you. Um, People who are not compatible do IVF. People who, there's only so many different reasons why people do IVF. It just
Okay.
for us, it was not I don't know, it just wasn't in our cards.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yep.
That's a really interesting point. I didn't even think of that, kind of the difference between being able to get pregnant versus
Mm-hmm.
being able to get pregnant, but not being able to stay pregnant.
Yep.
That's a distinction I had never thought of before. That's
Yep.
interesting.
And there's
So,
they put you on progesterone. There's other things that they could do to help you stay pregnant. But if they can't pinpoint why you're not able to stay pregnant,
yeah,
I mean, we could do all the tests in the world, but if we can't figure it out, then
yeah,
it's a lot on somebody's body, especially to have to go through the after part, like waiting. It's like a waiting game. Like you can either, you do surgery, and that's a whole, like you go into something that you don't ever think that you're going to go into, or you're having a miscarriage at home, and
Mm-hmm.
miscarriages are very painful.
Yeah.
Like it's an emotional ride. It's
Yeah.
painful. It's a whole thing.
Yeah. I can't even
I
imagine.
can't imagine either, because the two sides of the same coin, the emotional ride to
Oh
go
yeah.
through, the physical of what it does to your body. Because, like you said, knowing how bad you want this, knowing what your body has told you, and then having the decision of, do you want to put this giant potentially financial burden on the weight of that decision, I cannot imagine emotionally, let alone knowing, okay, if I make this decision, it doesn't work, then knowing physically again what your body is going to go through. So, yeah.
And
I
I
can't
feel
even
like it
imagine.
was like when we finally got moved to Florida and stuff, and we got pregnant naturally with no help. Like we weren't even doing. Everybody was like, okay, like this is it. Everyone always says stop worrying about it, and then it'll happen.
Yeah.
But like it's so hard to say that to somebody who's literally thinking about it all the time. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's on your mind all the time. Because what people don't see is you come home and you're testing, you're charting, you're making notes to tell your doctor, you're, doing all these things. So when we did move and everything was fine, I think that the last time that I was pregnant, we just didn't get I don't know what happened, whatever, but I think the medicine, we didn't get medicine in time. I think that's what it was. But now I look back and I'm like, I went through all these things for something so much bigger than what, like you go through things, everything happens for a reason. That's so cliche to say, but it really does.
I really
Like
think it does.
now looking back, like the last year of my life has just been amazing compared to all the struggle that we went through.
Let's get into that. Yeah, because you've got to see the light from this journey and battle you've been going on. So when did you guys make the decision to adopt? How did that come about, and what was that process like?
So we had talked about it early on into our infertility journey. for me, becoming a mom it wasn't, it didn't have to be me. It didn't have to be Chris. It didn't have to be anything. I just wanted to be a mom.
Okay, so you were okay, obviously, if you did not biologically, you just wanted to be a mom.
Yeah. And, we could provide a child with a life that, they might not have gotten. And I know a lot of people say, like, infertility, it's not, adoption is not something for people to use just because you're infertile. And, like, I see the side of that. I see it. I get it. But if these couples want to provide for a child who their parents are making this life-changing decision, like Stevie's birth parents they're going to live with that for the rest of their lives. Like they're going to feel that hurt for the rest of their lives. And I feel like if they make that decision, for us as adoptive parents, if we could provide their child a life that they would want them to have, I just don't see the bad in it. I don't see, there's just a lot of adoption, like,
that's what I was thinking.
Going around right now, just, it's just,
is that if you'll unpack that a little bit for us, because you are probably more prevalent to that.
Yeah.
You said that I'd never heard some people say not to use adoption because you are infertile.
So a lot of people say that you shouldn't turn to adoption just because you are infertile. And I feel like that, it's the amount of things that I've heard in the last couple of years, just being in these adoption groups on Facebook. Like, I mean, I've learned so much and just listening to like these people talk and reading their stories, and it's crazy. It just should stay between a birth family and adoptive family. And if that is what their birth parents decided, for whatever their reasons might be, then, if there's families out there that want to adopt, and
I don't know how to ask this any better, then what is adoption for? I mean, it's to give a child a home. Who cares how you get to that endpoint? It's to give a child a home and a loving family.
Yep.
I'm so thrown by that.
Like, there is, they say that there is a lot of adoption trauma, and I truly believe that. I truly believe that. But I think that when you go into adoption, you have to be open to having the hard discussions, to having, if you feel like your child needs therapy for it, whatever the circumstances might be, then I feel like
the adoption trauma, like what as the child ages.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
For sure.
And I'm sure. Go ahead.
Especially like if a birth family decides to give their child up for adoption and then continue having family. I felt, like that's a big issue. Yeah. And even that's something that we're going through right now. So it's like one day we will have to explain that to Stevie. And I'm not sure how we'll do it, but right now, obviously she's so little that she has no idea. But we do have an open adoption. We have what they consider a unicorn situation. Me and Stevie's birth mom text. She is my Facebook friend. Like I'm the one who picked her up and took her to the hospital to have Stevie. I was in the room when Stevie was born. We took her home from the hospital. We went to every single doctor's appointment. Like, I was driving back and forth.
So how did that come about? How did you find Stevie's biological mom? And did you know you wanted it to be an open adoption, or is that her contingency?
So I've always said that if and when we were to adopt, I would always want it to be open to some extent, just because I would want to know, like, who my family is. And not only that, but like, if something happened, if say Stevie, something happened and she needed some kind of medical help and I couldn't help her or Chris couldn't help her, I would want to be able to reach out to her family, to see if they could help. There's a lot of different things But if it can come from family, then, why wouldn't I want that?
Yeah.
But I do understand, people do close for reasons. I completely understand that. It's just not what we wanted.
Yeah. So if we could back up just a little bit, I would like to, because I'm sure when you get started with this adoption process, they have, you know, uh, I don't know if there's counseling you go through, like, who did you go through and what did that whole process before you actually, found the mother and that sort of
Right.
thing?
So, our situation is very, very rare. I had a mutual friend reach out to me. She knows Stevie's birth family, and she knew that she was looking to give her baby up for adoption, and she was asking her about it. And our mutual friend said, I know somebody. Let me talk to her and let me get you guys in contact.
Wow.
And we started talking, and then, this literally, it was October of last year, and
Uh-huh.
Stevie was born in January.
Wow.
So,
So this was just done probably through an attorney then,
yep.
or?
So we were going through an agency, and there's a lot of things that adoption agencies do that are great. But it felt very, very, very transactional, not only to us, but also to Stevie's birth family. It was just, the money was always a question. It was always a question. And then I actually reached out to a Facebook group, and I was like, I went on there anonymously, and I'm like, we're looking to adopt. Who can help me? And someone said to reach out to Kirsch and Kirsch. They're actually in Indiana, and I called them, and Joe Kirsch explained adoption and adoption agencies to me like I was his friend. He didn't lawyer talk me. And I was on my way. We were actually on our driving back to Florida to our home study, and I knew that was our lawyer. And then everything was done through him privately, so we didn't go through an agency at all.
Okay.
Was the home study through the agency? That was before you had let them go?
No. So the lawyer gave us a contact in Florida, so we did everything through that. Now, doing a private adoption, you still have to do everything.
Oh, okay. That's what I wondered. You still have to do a home study and everything? Who's signing off on that? Like the lawyer is making sure both sides are good with the situation to prove for the birth family that they're good with the decision?
So basically, you turned everything into what we had to do. We had to do fingerprinting, we had to do background checks, we had to do references, we had to do home study, we had to do all the classes, CPR, all of the things, just like you were going through an agency. And for our thing, it was just a little bit different just because we're what you're called like outer state adoption, because we live in 2 different states.
Okay, where was Stevie's birth mom at?
She's actually in Indiana.
Indiana, you guys being in Florida, so that's why it's the different states. Oh,
Yep, okay. She's in Princeton. So we had to fill out double the work. Basically, we had to fill out just a little bit more. And then once Stevie was born, we did have to stay in Indiana and wait for them to send the paperwork to Florida. Florida had to approve it, send it back to Indiana, and then they got called and said that you guys can go home.
Oh, wow. So after she was born, Florida had to approve it. After she was born and you thought at this point you were taking her home, you had to get through the obstacle of this home state, Florida, where you guys lived, approving it. They could have not approved it somehow, and you still would not be taking home a baby
if we
girl.
didn't have our paperwork or anything like that. Yep.
Gosh, wow.
And even from there, it's like even more. So like an adoption for ours, again, every adoption's different. For ours, Stevie's birth mom had birth dads. They can sign their paperwork before the mom even goes to the hospital. But a mother cannot sign anything up to 24 hours after the child's been born.
Okay.
That's the deadline for her last opportunity to sign something, or she can't start signing anything until 24 hours after.
She cannot start signing anything.
And that's in case she changes her mind or something like that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's just what's like, so like so she had a C-section. If, say, something happened and she was asleep for that, like whatever the circumstances might have been. But after she signed that, so our lawyer came to the hospital, and we provided her a lawyer through our lawyer as well. So both lawyers were there. She signed all of her paperwork. And in our case, she decided to waive her like grace period, her 15 days of like where she could change her mind. So every state is different, but Indiana, you have 15 days. So like we could have taken Stevie to where we were staying, and then she could have decided to still parent.
I had heard from some people in certain states it's up to 6 months.
Yep.
That blows my mind.
Yep. So Indiana,
she waived the 15-day grace period.
So she actually decided to do court in the hospital. So they in the court they did phone court, and she terminated all of her rights. So we knew that a day and a half after Stevie was born that she was ours.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
What? You said you were in the room.
Yep.
What was that moment like for you?
It was insane. I literally I can like see it. I can feel it. It's just nuts. And it was so surreal just because, they only allow one to go back because she did have a C-section. So Chris was on the outside, and whenever we got out, he was like, I heard her cry. Like it was like I don't know. And in that moment, it was like, this is our baby, like.
Oh my God. I get goosebumps every time you say it. I just love your story so much. So we've kind of not hit on this. I know you can't talk for him. What was this journey like for Chris to go through?
I just kept asking him, like, are you ready? Like, he loves kids when they can walk and talk. And he is not, I've never seen him hold a baby. We've given him a baby to hold. There's a difference. You're actually holding. And I was Stevie's birth mom person in the hospital as well. So I was going back and forth between our room and her room, making sure she was
like
okay.
You were her support system, you mean?
Well, yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So I was making sure that, we were good and she was good. So they were cleaning Stevie off, and I went in there to check on her, and I came back and Chris was holding her. And I was like, what? So yeah, he's changed completely.
Wow.
She has changed him. So
that is so special.
Where'd you guys get her name from?
I was actually at work, and I don't even remember what I was working on. I was working on something for a post, and I was like, that's her name. Stevie, that's her name. And Chris was like, okay. He picked the boy name and I picked the girl name, and that's just what we went through it.
So you guys didn't know till she was born if she was a girl or a boy?
So we actually went to, we thought that Stevie was going to be born in like May. So when we came home in Thanksgiving, Stevie didn't have any prenatal care prior to this appointment. So we went to the appointment thinking that we were going to get a due date. We didn't know if we were going to find out sex or not, but we were, hoping. And they went to do the ultrasound, and she was 34 weeks pregnant. So,
oh my gosh.
And we found out she was a girl.
Yeah.
So you did find out you waited so long, and then you got a little fast forward for instead of May, it was January.
Yeah. So we went from, that was December 8th, that appointment. And then January 15th, she was born.
Wow.
And we did our home study. We did all of the things that we had to do in between that time. So I was driving. At this point, we're already doing two doctor's appointments a week. So I would leave Friday. I would head back to Florida. We would do all of our stuff that we had to do, and I would leave Sunday, and I would head back so I could take her to our doctor's appointments on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Wow, you're a special person. That's amazing. So you made the choice to share your journey on social media. So was that on purpose or did it just happen?
I felt like at first, whenever we first started going through infertility and everything, I didn't post anything. And then one day I was like, you know what? I have to. And then from there, it's like I've met so many people that either went through the same thing, they're on the same journey, they're going through the same thing. So and now I just talk about it all the time, and now it just seems so crazy to look back on, everything that we went through. There was a reason, we did go through all these things for reasons. And I just, the adoption, it like, I hate to say it like this, it just like fell into our hands, but it was meant to be,
Yeah.
we were where we were, we could do it, we got it done, we did all the steps that we had to do within a little bit of time.
That's another thing. You guys had a lot of things to accomplish being in different states, and that had to take a lot of financial resources, not only for you all to get it accomplished. It sounds like you guys took care of everything on the other side too, so that's amazing.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that it's such a great story to me because you went through so much, to have a baby, and it was so difficult, all those years, all the struggle, all the pain and the heartache. And then when the opportunity came for you to adopt, it seems like it was fairly simple for you. I mean, like the process was quick. It was like, so I think that that's great. That you got your wish easily.
Yeah. And it's, it's like you could go through adoption and they decide to parent and
still
that's
have
great,
heartbreak.
like that.
Not necessarily easily, but you didn't have to then go through a bunch of adoption heartbreak.
Yep. But never once did I like question. Like I never felt any kind of.
It just felt right.
Yeah, like I knew we were bringing her home. Like she was going to be our baby.
Yeah.
And it was just, we could have done it anywhere, anything, but for it to happen in Indiana, our entire family was there. They all got to meet her. It was just surreal. Like, that's just how it was supposed to happen.
Yeah. That is so amazing. And I heard you mention earlier, you do refer to her biological family as her family. Is that something you purposefully use that terminology?
Obviously, Stewie doesn't know now that she's adopted. She's only one, but one day she will. We do yearly meets. I'm coming home in May, so we're planning on doing a meet in May to where her birth mom, her birth dad, and she does have a set of siblings. She has twin brothers that are a year older than her. So they will, and to me, that's like the biggest thing. I have step siblings, I have half siblings, but we're all siblings. Like we don't use half, we don't use step. And one day, like obviously, we don't plan on giving her siblings. She has dog siblings, and that's where we're going from here. We went through enough, and we were always said that we were a one and done family. From the
beginning through all this, you knew you just wanted one. Okay.
Yeah. So one day maybe she wants to reach out to her siblings, and they have the option to reach out to her. Obviously right now they're all too little to even understand, but
that's something you guys have to prepare for in the future.
Yeah. Yep. And she's, like, I have pictures of her birth mom holding her in the hospital. That's in her baby book. When we do our meetings, I'll take pictures, like that. That is her family too. That's where she came from. They made a decision that I couldn't even think about making. And I don't even know how I can repay them for making it. They gave me everything.
Yeah,
Really.
so many people that have been adopted don't have the opportunity to find their birth parents. They spend lots of time and money even to just try to research that, and so that's pretty cool that she has that option to get to know
Yep.
her parents. So,
And I know like open adoptions right now, like I said, like they say ours is like a unicorn situation. Because we do, we are friends on Facebook, we are, all the things. And maybe one day that won't be the case, maybe, I know sometimes open adoptions become closed just because it's hard on one side versus the other, but I really hope that that's not our case. I hope that, we're always open enough to where we do our meetings. If Stevie has questions about her family, I would love for her to be able to ask them, when she's older. Right now, she is a baby, and she literally looks like me. It's so weird.
She does. I didn't know if I should say that or not because we all know it's not possible. Girl, that baby looks like you.
Everyone says it. It's crazy. But one day she might not look like us, and she might want to know who she looks like. So I hope that, I can give her all the information that we
Does she look like her older siblings?
No.
Give me goosebumps.
Crazy.
That is crazy.
It's crazy. She looks just like my baby pictures.
I didn't see your baby pictures, but like online, I'm like, I don't know how this adoption thing works, but girl, she looks like you.
Yep.
Oh, that is so amazing.
Taylor, what's the one thing, as we kind of draw this to a close, that you would want to share with someone who might be going through a similar process that you did, struggling with getting pregnant, and thinking about adoption?
I think that just talking to somebody, finding somebody to talk with, don't feel like you are by yourself. Don't feel like you're alone. If you're going through it, somebody has went through it, or somebody's going to go through it. So use your voice, talk about it. Even, what we are, making the next generation great. I want Stevie to know that she can always talk to me, or she could talk to somebody. Because there's going to be other kids in the world that have been adopted. Like I want her to be able to talk about that. It's not something to be ashamed of. It's not something to be, I just talk about it.
It makes her extra special.
Yeah. Yeah. You have family that loved you even before you knew them, it's crazy.
So tell us some amazing things about your beautiful baby girl. What's it been like the first year of motherhood?
It has been a whirlwind of emotions. I always knew I wanted to be a mom, but I had no idea. I always wanted to be a boy mom. So it was definitely a surprise to me, but everyone else says that I was meant to be a girl mom.
You a good girl mom. I see those bows. I see those matching pajama outfits.
Yep. She came in and fully completed us. She's just amazing. The best part of everything. It's just been great.
Did she say mama or dad at first?
She said dad. She said dad, but she does say mom now.
Good for her.
Funny. That's funny. And the dogs welcomed her just as easily as you guys did?
Yep. She does. She says dog. She loves them. She looks for them. It's so crazy because they're like, obviously when you go through fertility, you turn to things. I turned to dogs. So I started getting dogs, and then, so it's crazy to watch her have bonds with them. It's just great.
Your baby with your first babies.
Yes, so much. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Well, great, Taylor. We are so happy for you that you have your your little bundle of joy, and after all that time and heartache. And we hope that everything is just amazing and you're able to enjoy her and through the rest of your life, and maybe she'll even give you some grandkids one day. So anyway, we're going to close this up, and we appreciate having you on. And again, thank you so much, and congratulations.
Thank you guys for asking.
Absolutely. I love people sharing their vulnerability as 100% of strength. Again, I did not know your situation. It's so weird. I can't even say I knew you, but you sharing it, never been in that situation, have never wanted to be a mom, but seeing you and your story, I became a cheerleader for you. I prayed for you guys. I wanted to see your happiness. So getting to see that on the outside, I can't imagine what that did for someone who is in your same shoes, and how that changed their lives. So I just think it is such an amazing story. And we need all the good stories in life that we can get. And that is what the internet is for, is to keep people connected, or to start being connected in that way. So I was so happy for this conversation. Thank you so much again for your time. And thank you everyone so much for listening today. Be sure to follow us and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Stay connected with us on social media, and we want to hear from you. Let us know what you learned from today's episode. If you are needing any help or need to reach out to someone so you know you are not alone, use the hashtag Kick It Up a Notch podcast, direct message us, find our number. We will get you connected. Like Taylor said, don't do this alone. There are other people going through similar situations. Until next time, folks, let's keep working together to kick it up a notch in everything we do.
Kick It Up a Notch is all about real talk and real stories, but we're not doctors, lawyers, financial advisors, or therapists. We're just two business owners having fun, sharing experiences, and hopefully sparking some inspiration. So don't take anything we say as professional advice. Always do your research and consult the experts when needed. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to Kick It Up a Notch. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. Until next time, keep reaching higher and kicking it up a notch.